champion.
Yes! The shot's gonna count.
Indiana wins the championship.
You can't be serious with that
Puts
shot.
it up.
Yes! Heroes are born in March.
Today on March Madness 75.
The dream is alive.
The countdown begins.
Can you believe he got that high?
These are the most memorable moments in the tournament's 75-year history.
God, he did it! A miracle!
The agony,
No!
the ecstasy,
On the dot.
the game's greats, and the great games that have stood the test of time.
Instant closer.
CBS Sports Network celebrates the 75 greatest moments in the NCAA tournament.
Unforgettable. Michael Jordan. Launches the shot.
Wow! Unbelievable! Oh my goodness! Dreams to come true.
As good as it gets.
With 75 years of history, picking the best is no easy feat.
Here we go.
But our panel of CBS announcers and experts have voted, and the list is set. There's a lot to get to, so let's get the countdown started.
Incredible!
We begin with the 2012 tournament ending. Our first moment is the coronation of the kids from Kentucky.
And the superior team all season long was the superior team tonight.
When the 2012 title game began, Kentucky had 7 championships in their storied past and a sparkling 37-2 record in the present.
They were a tremendous team to watch. And Coach Cal, he recruited that bunch, and he knew exactly what he was getting when he did that. Kids who were good enough to play one season go on to the NBA.
The Wildcats were led by 6 players who would be drafted to the NBA just 3 months later, including #1 pick Anthony Davis and #2 pick Michael Kidd-Gilchrist.
John Calipari absolutely gets the most out of the most talented players in the country.
And against Kansas, that talent was on full display, as an 8-point victory secured Kentucky's 8th title.
And the Kentucky coronation is complete. Champions 2012.
John Calipari now carries the torch for Kentucky, a flame lit long ago by a legendary coach whose first NCAA title in 1948 is our next moment.
Kentucky basketball. It's the Commonwealth's team, and it started with Coach Rupp.
Stop that man, yells Kentucky coach Rupp.
Coach Adolph Rupp took his Wildcats to the title game against Baylor. A great effort from his fabulous 5 led Kentucky to the rout and their first championship.
Everyone else plays basketball, but Kentucky is exceptional and one of a kind, and Adolph Rupp made it that.
Moment 73 came in 2010. Xavier versus Kansas State. A Sweet 16 game for the ages.
Holloway 3! Oh, bam! Clemente the other way. Down the lane, the finger roll is pure.
It was a very well-played game, and it was a very physical game. It was a very emotionally draining game.
The contest featured 13 ties and 17 lead changes and one clutch basket after another.
Oh, he buried it again!
That was an unbelievable game. That's what makes the tournament so special.
To the shoot! Oh! And we're heading for overtime.
Just when you think it can't get any more dramatic, something else happens.
Crawford's got to hurry! Up! Oh, no! And we're heading to double overtime!
In double overtime, Xavier finally ran out of gas and Kansas State advanced to the Elite Eight.
Instant classic!
Our next moment is another Sweet 16 memory, one that left a sour taste for the 2006 Gonzaga squad and their star forward Adam Morrison.
If you ask people, what do you remember most about Adam Morrison? It's the image of him on the floor, crying his eyes out like a little kid who just had his heart broken.
So what led to that heartbreak?
And Morrison banks one down and draws a foul.
For 37 minutes, Morrison played his heart out, scoring 24 points and pacing the Zags to a 9-point lead.
And look at the intensity.
Gonzaga was just 3 minutes away from the Elite Eight, and then it all unraveled.
Now we've got a ball game.
As an athlete, if you are not in control emotionally, you're not going to be able to respond or perform.
Gonzaga and Adam Morrison did lose control as UCLA scored 11 straight points to stun the Bulldogs.
Ow, and they go in front! Unbelievable! What a game!
When it's over, man, you should cry. You know, you should cry hard because something really important has been lost.
Heartbreak City!
Sometimes the tournament spotlight burns too hot. But in the 1986 title game, there was a freshman who never got nervous.
It'll be the Cardinals of Louisville against the Duke Blue Devils for our national championship.
I thought Duke was going to win. I really did.
Louisville, led by the freshman nicknamed Never Nervous Purvis Ellison, had different thoughts.
Stolen by Ellison, the center.
Purvis Ellison picked a heck of a time to, really step up.
Ellison was the first freshman in 42 years named the tournament's most outstanding player, as his 25 points led Louisville to the championship.
The Cardinals have won the national championship.
In 1999, Duke was in the title game again. A 37-1 powerhouse led by Elton Brand and Trajan Langdon. They were heavy favorites against fellow one-seed UConn, featuring Richard Hamilton and Khalid El Amin.
On the floor, El Amin gets it ahead to Hamilton. What an effort. Avery to Brand.
Wow, holy mackerel.
It was a blockbuster final. Two great teams playing against each other, and, one of them was going to find a way to win it.
The game was a battle of wills featuring 14 ties and 8 lead changes.
That was a loaded Duke basketball team, and Connecticut took it right to them.
Look at this, he lost control at one.
And fittingly, this back-and-forth contest came down to the final seconds.
He doesn't have a lot of time here.
Pressure from Jones, Langdon trips, and UConn has done it! And UConn has won the national championship in its first attempt in a final.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about!
Welcome back to the NCAA Tournament's 75 Greatest Moments. Number 69 is the first time a team repeated as champion, something only 6 schools have accomplished since. In 1946, Oklahoma A&M, now Oklahoma State, won a second straight title. Their coach was simply known as Mr. Iba. From Mr. Iba to Mr. President, our next moment was witnessed by Bill Clinton as his Arkansas Razorbacks played Duke for the championship in 1994.
President Bill Clinton was there. I remember everybody had to go through all the metal detectors, and it took forever to get in the arena.
It was worth the wait as the fans and the president were on the edge of their seats. The game was tied at 70 with under a minute to go.
One on the shot clock. Thurman beat it. Oh! He got it!
Dwight Stewart, who was a big man but a great outside shooter, he got the pass and he kind of bobbled it. And instead of forcing the ball, he had the unselfishness to pass it to Scotty on the wing.
Lang going out on Thurman. Scotty goes up.
I don't know, maybe the ball got a few inches over his outstretched arm, but just a beautiful rainbow jumper.
Arkansas is in hog heaven. They've won the first ever national championship.
Moment 67 took place in 1965, as John Wooden's UCLA Bruins were going for their second consecutive title and facing Michigan.
Michigan was the bigger team, but part of John Wooden's philosophy was I'd rather be quick than big. And that Bruins team in 65, like the year before, had great quickness and it had a great scorer in Gail Goodrich. He was unbelievably tough and he had great savvy.
Gail Goodrich scored a then championship game record 42 points to lead the Bruins to victory.
42 points in a championship game, a title for the second straight year. And Gail Goodrich had the game of his life.
Next is another championship game, Indiana versus North Carolina in 1981. A game overshadowed by the unthinkable.
An unidentified assailant fired at least 3 shots, possibly as many as 5 out of the crowd. President Reagan did suffer a wound in the chest.
At 2:30 p.m., President Ronald Reagan was rushed to the hospital in Washington, D.C. That night in Philadelphia, the NCAA title was to be decided.
As far as we knew, President Reagan was going to die. He could have died. And we're going to play a basketball game.
The presidents emerged from this experience with the most optimistic prospects for a complete recovery.
Once the country knew the president would be okay, the decision was made to play the game.
Introducing the starting lineups for tonight's championship game.
I said the words, but I don't remember the players. I don't remember anything because the president had been shot.
There are much more meaningful things happening in this country of ours, and we all send our very best thought toward Washington.
Isaiah Thomas scored a game-high 23 points, leading the Hoosiers to a triumph eclipsed by tragedy.
When it comes down, Indiana will be champion.
That game earned Bobby Knight his second championship as a coach. His first actually came as a player in 1960 as a reserve forward with Ohio State, a team loaded with talent.
John Havlicek, Larry Siegfried, Mel Nowell, Jerry Lucas in particular. These were great players.
Lucas was, I think, probably the prototypical great big man of that generation, that he could do it all.
He can step away and hit shots, pretty good passer. Back then, that was unheard of, that a guy this big was doing it.
Shooting 67% from the field, Lucas and the Buckeyes blew out defending champion California to take the title. Knight spent most of that title game on the bench. In the opening round of the 1986 tournament, he was on the bench again as a coach when his Hoosiers ran into Cleveland State and the Mouse.
The Mouse can play. You'll see a show with the Mouse, I guarantee you.
Ken Mouse McFadden led 14-seed Cleveland State into their first ever tournament game.
Great move by the Mouse.
He felt like he was the best guy on the court, no matter who he was playing against.
And when Indiana trapped the Mouse, his teammates stepped up, shooting nearly 60% from the field as they headed for the upset.
Cleveland State is for real.
I'm a Cleveland native. My dad still lives there. We were both excited about what was transpiring on the tube. Cleveland State is about to knock off the Hoosiers.
That's it. Cleveland State has beaten Bob Knight's Indiana Hoosiers.
I just always remember the name Mouse McFadden, and he put Cleveland State on the map.
Want to be part of the madness? Well, now you can. Just go to ncaa.com/March Madness and vote for the all-time March Madness players, teams, and moments. Welcome back to the 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history. Number 63 is Coach Phog Allen's lone NCAA championship.
Come on, boys, this is it. Let's go. Come on.
He really is recognized in the coaching profession, especially those who appreciate history and tradition, as the father of basketball coaching.
And in 1952, Allen was a proud papa as he and the Jayhawks won their first title. Our next moment also features a legendary coach in the hunt for his first championship. Bobby Knight's 1975 Hoosiers came into their Elite Eight contest against Kentucky with a 31-0 record.
This was just an extraordinary team. They didn't lose halves, much less games.
What happened to that team was a broken arm. Scott May broke his arm, and they just weren't the same. You couldn't take a player like that away from that team, the way they played, and just make it work.
Remarkably, the Hoosiers nearly made it work as Kent Benson kept the game within reach with 33 points and 23 rebounds. But Indiana was unable to pull out the victory, suffering their lone loss in back-to-back seasons as Bobby Knight's 1976 squad went on to be undefeated champions.
Knight had really burned inside him because he thought his 75 team should have won it.
The pain of falling short on the court is nothing compared to the heartbreak Rick Pitino suffered late in the 1987 season.
A few days before the NCAA tournament started, Rick Pitino's infant son died.
It became something that the team really united about, they really bonded about. You could see how much it affected Rick Pitino, and how could it not?
He lost his infant son, 6-month-old Daniel, and as he said, the games keep us going.
The 6-seed Friars, led by guard Billy Donovan, went on an inspired run through the tournament. And in the Elite Eight, number 1 seed Georgetown was waiting.
Rick Pitino said, and I told my team, the best thing you can do for me and my family is to win and keep me involved in basketball. The tears will come later.
Paced by Donovan's 20 points, Providence pulled off a most memorable upset.
That's what it's all about.
Rick Pitino was coaching that year with a very heavy heart, and they made their run to the Final Four. Because he was young, because there was some innocence there, because he had just experienced this horrible tragedy. He, to this day, will tell you that's the most special experience that he ever had as a basketball coach.
following year, it was another team from Rhode Island who made an inspiring run.
This is one of the great stories in college basketball this year, is this young man right here, Tom Garrick.
But there was more to the story than Tom Garrick Jr.'s play.
It's his family. His father, Tom Garrick Sr., is here, and he is blind. He tried to cover a mine during the Second World War. He met Tom Garrick's mother. That was his nurse. He has never seen his wife or this young boy.
And he was there in the stands as his boys' scoring binge helped 11-seed University of Rhode Island pull off 2 early round upsets.
Right to the glass. Now that's Tom's brother there on the right, and that's his sister Stacy on the left. They are his eyes here this afternoon, if you will.
Though Rhode Island's run would end in the Sweet 16 when they fell to Duke.
It's over. Duke wins it by 1.
The defeat was merely a footnote, as a guard and his father left a lasting impression on the tournament.
And talking to young Tom, he's so proud of his dad. Makes college athletics look pretty good.
There's a unique bond between father and son, but sometimes the relationship between coach and player is equally special, as we see in moment number 59.
Mateen Cleaves is the reason we're family, says Tom Izzo.
Tom Izzo and Lupe, his wife, adopted a son, and their son's name is Stephen Mateen Izzo. That's a pretty good testimony to how Tom Izzo felt about his player.
In 2000, Mateen Cleaves led Tom Izzo's Michigan State Spartans to the title game against the Florida Gators.
The qualities that he brought as a leader, as a player, as a tenacious personality, guts.
And Cleaves was forced to show just how gutsy he was.
Cleaves was fouled and he made. He hurt himself, Jimmy.
Just when it seemed the Spartans would have to go on without their heart and soul, Cleaves made a dramatic return.
Here comes Cleaves.
Just showing how gutty this ball club is.
And you can leave it to Cleaves. He has reinstated the magic at Michigan State.
I think Mateen Cleaves is still Tom Izzo's favorite player over all those years at Michigan State.
One of the greatest leaders the game has ever
seen. Welcome back. Our countdown of the 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history continues. At number 58 is the final moment of Michael Jordan's college career.
Michael Jordan in '82, when they won it, we didn't know how good he was.
Jordan! Michael Jordan!
We had no idea how good he was.
A mere freshman when they won the championship, Jordan was a dominant junior in 1984, looking to lead the #1 Tar Heels to another title.
I've been head coach 25 years and assistant for 10 years. I still think that's the best team I've ever been around.
But a Sweet 16 matchup against the #4 seed Indiana Hoosiers put the Tar Heels to the test.
Bob Knight's probably your worst nightmare because he will find a way to beat you.
Jordan will try to cut it to 2. Just won't go.
Indiana was just up in your face.
Good defense by Indiana.
There was a grunt worker on defense named Dockich that did an incredible job on Jordan.
There's Dockich keeping Jordan off the boards again.
In a shocking turn of events, Jordan was stifled, while Indiana's freshman guard Steve Alford scored 27.
That has to give Indiana a real lift.
Michael got in foul trouble.
Jordan leads the ball game with 13 points.
Indiana executed Bob Knight's game plan right to perfection.
And Indiana has won it. Michael Jordan, the player of the year, and how disappointed he must be.
From the low point of one of the greatest players' college career to the pinnacle of one of the greatest college teams ever, our next moment is when UNLV reached the top of the mountain.
You don't always get an opportunity to play your best on the biggest stage.
And the stage was set. UNLV versus Duke for the 1990 title.
It was an awesome feeling going into the game with them, and you're in your first national championship game, but they just jumped on us.
Steal by Augment. Henderson's back.
He's special.
Defensively, we were about as good as you could be, and it kind of fueled our offense. It led to a lot of highlights.
Into the hands of Hunt.
Total domination here by UNLV on both ends of the floor.
I had committed to Duke, and so watching them, I don't think I've ever seen or witnessed or experienced a final game in the NCAA tournament where a team just destroyed another team.
To Leitner from Hurley. Misses, and that's an indication of how this game has gone, and it's all the running Rebs.
UNLV crushed Duke by 30 points and staked their claim as the dominant force in college basketball.
UNLV, they have won their first ever national championship.
We didn't have the tradition that so many other schools had, and so for us to be able to go and win a national championship was a pretty significant accomplishment.
This night belongs to Las Vegas.
But the very next year, Duke put an end to UNLV's amazing 2-year run and began an even greater 2-year run of their own.
Duke has done it. Duke has upset UNLV.
After snapping UNLV's 45-game win streak in the national semifinals, the Blue Devils and Mike Krzyzewski beat Kansas to win the title.
Duke has won its first national championship.
When we won, it was just like, let's celebrate. We got the monkey off Coach K's back. Duke has finally done it. You know, we redeemed ourselves from last year.
With all of Duke's key players returning, their celebration soon turned to thoughts of a repeat.
There's some great teams in the modern era who are not able to win back-to-back championships. And so we kind of had an idea, like we wanted to prove we could. And that was sort of our mantra, our belief.
Duke entered the 1992 tournament as the top seed and faced the Fab Five of Michigan in the title game.
And the 1992 championship game is underway.
A 20-point blowout would give college basketball its first repeat champion in 2 decades.
It was just mind-boggling. We just had so much success.
At the end, we just felt like, wow, we did something historical here. We've done something that no one ever thought would happen again.
The Duke of Destiny has won it. For the first time in 2 decades, college basketball has a repeat champion.
Thanks for watching our first installment of the 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history. The countdown to the greatest moment continues as we celebrate 75 years of March Madness.
There you have it. North Carolina is the national champion.
Yes! The shot's gonna count.
Indiana wins the championship.
You can't be serious with that
Puts
shot.
it up. Yes! Heroes are born in March.
Holy mackerel!
Here we go.
Today, the countdown of the 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history continues.
Oh, my goodness!
With 20 behind us, the moments are getting bigger and better, including record-breaking performances.
Never has a 15th seed won a first-round game.
Clutch shooting.
He hits it!
And perhaps the most explosive game in NCAA tournament history.
Drexler, look out.
CBS Sports Network celebrates the top 75 moments in the NCAA tournament.
Michael Jordan. And won it! Launches the shot. Wow! Unbelievable! Oh my goodness! Dreams to come true. As good as it gets.
The NCAA tournament is college basketball's biggest stage, spotlighting the moments that hurt, as well as the ones that shine.
A 33-point turnaround.
And the next player on our countdown absolutely sparkled. At number 55 is a tournament record that still stands more than 4 decades later.
Well, Austin Carr was just one of the great pure scorers in college basketball history.
Junior guard Austin Carr averaged 34.6 points per game at Notre Dame. His most prolific performance came in the first round of the 1970 tournament against Ohio University.
Here's Carr, tough shot, he has it. 11 points for Austin Carr. 20 points, Carr hits again. 35 points, Austin Carr, 52 points. Long jump shot. Left, right, hook, jump, outside, inside, doesn't matter.
Carr finished 25 of 44 from the field and 11 of 14 from the free throw line to score a whopping 61 points.
The next point makes Austin Carr the highest scorer in the history of a tournament game. He knows, he smiles. Maybe they didn't know he was going to get this many.
What you had there was a confluence of a superior talent and a big situation. And he didn't just have a great game that day, he made history.
Now from a scoring record to a scoring spree.
There it is. And he just powered it in.
Our 54th spot is held by Navy's David Robinson and his incredible tournament run in 1986.
Tough shot. Oh, was that a tough spinning move?
People didn't realize how good David Robinson was until they played against him.
This David Robinson has great agility, can run the floor, soft hands.
He played the game with such touch and finesse. He really was a dignified presence. You don't say that about many athletes.
In the Naval Academy's first 3 wins, Robinson averaged 29 points,
Robinson, oh, is that impressive.
12 rebounds, and 7 blocks a game.
Rejected by David Robinson.
And stunned number 2 seed Syracuse at the Carrier Dome.
The midshipmen of Navy have conquered Syracuse in their home territory.
Before falling to number 1 Duke in the Elite 8.
It was an unbelievable thing for them to go as far as they did.
And there's the man that led the way.
At number 53, we look back to 1993 and the second time ever a 15 seed beat a number 2 seed as Arizona fell to a Santa Clara team featuring a future 2-time NBA MVP.
There was this kid who was a freshman named Steve Nash who played for Santa Clara. Nobody knew who Steve Nash was.
Nash has been more than equal to the task.
I don't know that any of us believed that we could win. We just gave it our best shot and found ourselves in the game.
Despite Nash shooting just 1 for 7 from the field, Santa Clara was poised for the upset, helped by Nash's performance at the line.
Oh, what a big-time performance at the stripe.
I remember they were fouling. I made 6 in a row.
That didn't touch iron.
Santa Clara looking to knock off a number 2 seed.
And with just 7.3 seconds remaining, the man who would become one of the greatest free throw shooters in basketball history was back at the line.
Oh, he finally missed one. Now, this is the critical one. Oh, that one's off, too.
I missed both. And so they came down with a chance to tie.
Arizona's got a chance. Stoudemire. No. Tipped out. Santa Clara wins.
It was definitely a wild finish. Guys were just running around, and everyone was in shock. You know, that's something that I'll always share with those guys, and it's one of the best moments in my career.
The Duke-Maryland rivalry has produced many memorable moments over the years, including a shocking Final Four comeback in 2001.
The 3, you bet.
Blue Devils are in trouble now.
Maryland just kind of was dominating the game, was in control of the game. And I think everyone just assumed that they were going to win.
Mouton is having the big first half. Look at his speed, lead to 2.
First time that Maryland had ever been in the Final Four, and they started that game against Duke on fire.
Duke was down by 22 points in the first half, but the momentum shifted in the second half as Shane Battier, Jason Williams, Chris Duhon, and Carlos Boozer led an improbable turnaround.
This could bring it to 4. You got it.
It showed a lot of grit and resolve by the Duke team, and I think on the road to a championship, you're going to have moments like that where you got to do the unthinkable.
And there, Williams gives Duke the lead, 73-72.
They didn't lose their poise. They kept their heads about them. They kept playing their game.
Duke with a 33-point turnaround after being down 22.
It was one of the best, if not the best, come-from-behind victories I've ever seen.
Seeing is believing, but what took place in the 1983 national semifinal left many fans rubbing their eyes in disbelief when the Houston Cougars took on Louisville in a high-flying Final Four.
Drexler, look out.
You had Clyde the Glide Drexler, you had Akeem the Dream. They were so, they were so talented. They loved it.
Here comes Drexler again. Oh, watch this.
It's like, oh my gosh, how are they going to top this? The next time down the floor, oh, there's another steal. There they go again.
Jones, reach in. Here comes Benny Anders. Jones is on his tail.
The number 1 seed Cougars were nicknamed Phi Slamma Jamma for their aerial artistry. Not to be outdone, top seed Louisville featured high-flying brothers Rodney and Scooter McCrae.
Everyone in the arena, I mean everyone in the arena, the fans and the media, knew this was the championship game.
The two Titans exchanged blows like prize fighters until the Cougars took off.
In that second half, that whole Phi Slamma Jamma vibe kicked in, and Houston was putting together the most thrilling 20 minutes of basketball this tournament has ever seen.
Houston's 94-81 victory is often forgotten in the wake of their stunning loss to NC State 48 hours later. Yet that 19-dunk game left an impression on all who watched, including the coach who would then mastermind the upset.
I have never seen so many dunks in a game in my life.
Welcome back to our countdown of the 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history. We've reached the top 50. Next up, the moment Michigan finally made it to the mountaintop. Interim coach Steve Fisher led Michigan's remarkable run, which featured Glenn Rice setting the all-time record for most points scored in a tournament.
Rice with the three.
The title game against Seton Hall went to overtime. Down by 1 with time running out, Rumeal Robinson drove the lane and received a controversial call.
Foul call with 3 seconds.
Not much of a foul, but Green did hit him.
2 high-pressure free throws would now decide the national championship.
Rumeal Robinson, had really struggled to make free throws over the course of the season.
One of the only statistical weaknesses of Rumeal Robinson's game is his free throw shooting. 64%.
What a pressure situation for him to be able to step to the line, and they called a timeout to try to ice him.
A timeout will be used by Seton Hall.
It looked like it was going to be one of those games that the team that had the ball last was going to win it, and somebody was going to make a shot or miss a shot.
Let's see what happens on the free throw. Michigan leads it.
Robinson was able to knock down the free throw there at the end to kind of seal the deal and give them the win.
Walker fires up. It's over. Michigan has won a national championship. It has been decided by 1 point.
When you have a national championship game that's decided by 1 point in overtime, you can't ask for much more than that.
That 1989 tournament began with a near stunner. A 14 seed has beaten a 3 seed 16 times.
That's it. Cleveland State has beaten Bob Knight's Indiana Hoosiers.
A 2 seed has fallen to a 15 6 times.
One of the all-time shockers. Lehigh defeats Duke.
But never in the history of the NCAA tournament has a 16 seed upset a number 1. Yet Princeton came close in their opening round matchup against top-seeded Georgetown.
There's David and Goliath, and there's Georgetown in the Big East, and there's, Princeton from the Ivy League.
There's a cut by Mueller. Nice move. Got the bucket. Beautiful execution by Princeton.
It's always fun watching Princeton because they play the game the right way.
I mean, is that a clinic? Moving the basketball, hitting the open man.
Pete Carrill's Tigers held the lead for the first 30 minutes and had their chance to win in the final seconds. But Alonzo Mourning made not one, but 2 critical defensive plays to squeak out a 1-point win.
Mueller fires. No, the Hoyas escape. And I mean escape. Princeton may have lost this game on the scoreboard, but that's the only place they lost it.
A 16 seed will eventually be the number 1 seed, and it's going to be exciting to see when it happens.
At number 48 on our countdown is a team that won the national championship the year after they lost their star player. Oscar Robertson led the Cincinnati Bearcats to the Final Four twice, but never brought home the title.
Sometimes teams come together better or more when they don't have that preeminent superstar.
In 1961, with Robertson off to the NBA, his former team achieved the unthinkable when they shocked Jerry Lucas, John Havlicek, and the previously undefeated and defending champs Ohio State in overtime to capture Cincinnati's first championship.
You had, a team that understood how to play, they had great talent, and therefore were able to accomplish greatness.
We go from one upset to another. Number 47 is the first number 15 seed ever to beat a number 2, a school that had become an expert in the art of the upset.
I think Richmond could be called the king of upsets in the NCAA tournament.
After shocking the defending champion Indiana Hoosiers 3 years prior,
Hillman for three. No, and Richmond wins!
the Spiders, under head coach Dick Tarrant, were poised for another even bigger upset.
There's Owens.
Against Jim Boeheim's #2 seed Syracuse.
Never has a 15th seed won a first-round game.
That Syracuse team was loaded.
Michael Edwards hits a three, but at the other end, here's Kenny Wood.
But Dick Tarrant was able to control the tempo of the game and keep the score low.
Richmond's been very patient. It slows down the Syracuse attack.
You've just seen history. The darlings of America from 3 years ago rekindle their love affair.
We hadn't seen a lot of those David and Goliath types. The Spiders, I think they kind of epitomize what makes March Madness a lot of fun to watch.
Want to be part of the madness? Well, now you can. Just go to ncaa.com/March Madness and vote for the all-time March Madness players, teams, and moments. Welcome back to the greatest moments in 75 years of March Madness. Number 46 in the countdown was the Elite Eight weekend in 2005 when 3 of the 4 games went into overtime. On Saturday, Illinois overcame a 15-point deficit in the last 4 minutes to defeat Arizona in OT.
Illinois advances to the Final Four.
That same day, Louisville mounted a 20-point comeback to beat West Virginia in overtime.
Louisville somehow, some way, manages to come back, and they're heading for the Final Four.
On Sunday, eventual national champion North Carolina outlasted Wisconsin, but then Michigan State had to withstand a last-second 3 by Kentucky in regulation.
Sparks has sent the game to overtime at the buzzer.
Before finally advancing to the Final Four in double overtime.
The celebration is underway. The march to the arch belongs to Michigan State in double overtime. What a day, what a game.
Our 45th moment in the countdown is a dramatic Sweet 16 showdown between Syracuse and Georgia in 1996.
Georgia leads by 2 points with 2.4 seconds left.
Needing a miracle to stay alive, Syracuse got a perfect inbounds pass from John Wallace to guard Jason Sapola.
Sapola, he's got it. If it goes on, it's good, it's good. Overtime. Wow.
Sapola hits a crazy shot. Everyone's looking up, who is this guy? John Wallace is a star of the team, but Syracuse had guys all year long that were stepping up.
What a pass to Sapola.
In overtime, Wallace again made his mark.
Wallace from underneath, yes! Syracuse by 2.
And in the closing seconds, as the action became frenetic,
Don't want to give him the three-point shot. Anderson, he got the three-point shot, and he buried it! Oh!
there was little doubt which player would take control.
You got a timeout left, you should call it quickly, if not take it all the way, Wallace. They have a timeout. Wallace, oh, what a game, Tim! Unbelievable! It's over. Syracuse, 82-81 in overtime.
That was probably the defining moment for them and Wallace.
That moment launched Syracuse all the way to the championship game, an improbable run in the big dance, highlighted by a memorable dance. Every year it seems at least one team surprises and delights basketball fans across the country. Our 44th moment features the 2008 Davidson Wildcats, a 10 seed led by the stellar shooting of Stephen Curry.
Folks, we got a star.
I think people watching that run were like, how come we didn't recruit Curry? I mean, where did this guy come from? All he did was shoot from deep and make shots.
Well, here's Curry. Oh, my goodness. Another three.
Curry scored 40 points in the first round to knock out Gonzaga. The Wildcats would then upset number 2 seed Georgetown.
Talk about David and Goliath.
And 3 seed Wisconsin.
Oh, my goodness.
Steph Curry was willing to take it in, get bumped, come back, and then still be able to shoot a step-back three, and just nothing but net.
And Curry went down swinging in the Elite Eight, scoring 25 points as Davidson lost 59-57 to top seed and eventual champion Kansas.
Curry, 4 to go, pumps, kicks it out, Richard! And it's over!
That's what March is all about, the small school taking on the big boys. I mean, it was an amazing run, and really, we're this close to making the Final Four.
Coming up, the epic moments continue as we near the halfway point on our countdown of the top 75 moments in the NCAA tournament. Welcome back as we continue to count down the greatest moments in NCAA tournament history. Number 43 comes from 1985. 2 shots from one man known as the Little General.
Andre Turner, the Little General, was probably one of the great point guards of that particular time.
Steal. Andre Turner ahead of the field. Gets the bucket.
In overtime of the second round game against UAB, Memphis State's Andre Turner made the game-winning shot.
Here they go. Turner.
Turner was a rock-solid, big-moment player.
And in his next game against Boston College in the Sweet 16, the Little General did it again.
Turner trying to win it again. He hits it. Lightning has struck again.
When you needed the shot with the clock winding down and a hand in your face, he'd drill it.
Clocking in at number 42, it's the Gonzaga Bulldogs who stepped into the national spotlight in 1999, establishing themselves as one of the tournament's great underdogs.
Gonzaga making only their second appearance ever in the NCAA tournament.
That was a terrific basketball team, and it put the program on the map, obviously, and they've sustained a level of excellence.
Gonzaga, under head coach Dan Munson, knocked out 7-seed Minnesota in the first round.
And the Bulldogs of Gonzaga will make history. This will be their first tournament win.
Before stunning number 2 seed Stanford in the second round.
Oh, what a shot! Gonzaga is in the Sweet 16.
I think Coach Monson did a great job of getting his guys to really believe, because it really starts with confidence.
The Sweet 16 game against Florida was a classic, defined by a perfectly timed tip in the closing seconds.
From the corner, and it's over! Gonzaga, the slipper still fits!
Their fairy tale would end at the hands of eventual champion UConn, but Gonzaga would leave their mark and pave the way.
I think that 99 Gonzaga team was kind of the patron saint of the mid-majors, because it wasn't really a Cinderella story, it was an arrival.
At 41 was a team that surprised many to win their first championship in 2006. And then shocked everyone when all 5 starters returned to try it again the following year.
As good as it gets. Florida's the national champion.
There were at least 3 guys who had an NBA career awaiting them, and they decided they wanted to do something in this day and age that would be different. They took that vow to one another to come back and go win another championship.
That was an amazing team that they had there. I know winning the first one is tough, and then coming back, in some ways it creeps in your head that we automatically gonna get there again.
Billy Donovan told them, don't listen to the praise, ignore the criticism. It's poison either way.
You have to work even harder because the target on your back is even bigger.
And he told them, stay focused on the goal and enjoy it. Oden trying to keep it alive, and Horford comes away with it.
The Gators starting 5 of Torian Green.
Here we go. Oh, what a great play.
Al Horford, Lee Humphrey, Corey Brewer, and Joakim Noah approached the tournament with a unified purpose.
Florida right now, just a team that knows how to win.
Looking for more history on Monday nights.
The Gators steamrolled the field on their way to the championship game where they took down Ohio State 84-75 to repeat as national champions.
Those kids, when they look back on the basketball side of their lives, it's going to be the most meaningful thing they ever did athletically.
Florida takes its place in history. Back-to-back and unforgettable.
As 5 individuals who made a commitment to one another, I salute them.
Thanks for watching more of our 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history. The countdown continues with the top 40 still to come as we celebrate 75 years of March Madness.
national champion. Yes! The shot's gonna count.
Indiana wins the championship.
You can't be serious with that
Puts
shot.
it up.
Yes! Heroes are born in March.
Today on March Madness 75. The countdown to the 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history continues with our top 40. We'll see improbable plays and impossible finishes, prolific players,
And that's gonna be it.
and transcendent teams.
Oh, he got it! Yes! Yes! Yes!
CBS Sports Network celebrates the 75 greatest moments in the NCAA tournament.
Michael Jordan. They won it! Launches the shot. Wow! Unbelievable! Oh my goodness! Dreams to come true.
As good as it gets.
In its 75-year history, March Madness has provided an abundance of memories.
That's it! A huge upset.
Moments that leave an indelible mark
How about that?
and a lasting legacy,
Yes! The shot's gonna count.
including those with meaning that resonates far beyond the court. And our moment at number 40 may be one of the most significant games in NCAA history.
You got a younger generation that didn't even know the game had changed. So I think it's a story that needs to be told.
In 1963, Loyola University started a majority of African American players. Their Sweet 16 opponent was an all-white Mississippi State squad, a team that snuck out of town under the cover of darkness, defying a state injunction in order to play against integrated teams in the tournament.
Mississippi State was denied the opportunity to go play in the NCAA tournament 3 out of the 4 years due to the fact that they would have had to play a team that had African American players on it. As far as the captains going out and handshake, it's obviously African American and Caucasian. All the flashball was going off. They didn't know what the big deal was, but obviously that became a picture and something of a symbol that this could actually work and you should be allowed to go out and play these games.
Loyola won by 10 and went on to capture their first title. Yet nearly 50 years later, it's that historic matchup against Mississippi State that is still celebrated as the game of change.
To do what they did as far as sneaking out of town, at night, to get a chance to go and play that game against Loyola in East Lansing was really something that was a brave thing to do.
You talk early 60s, the kind of impact that makes socially is something that becomes more of a significant accomplishment because of the climate that those guys did it in.
Our 39th moment was the night in 2003 a freshman sensation helped a decorated coach finally capture his first title.
Give the ball to Anthony and get everybody else to get out of the way.
A freshman with a lot of confidence.
Carmelo Anthony took the tournament by storm, and with 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists, Anthony was extraordinary in the championship game against Kansas.
Carmelo was tough to handle, but Jerry McNamara was just phenomenal in the first half. Jerry makes 6 threes in the first half. We're down 18.
Everything coming up right for Syracuse.
Despite that performance by the Syracuse freshmen, Kansas fought nearly all the way back. Down by 3, the Jayhawks had a chance to tie the game in the closing moments. But a Syracuse sophomore, Hakeem Wark, made a championship-saving play.
Lee shot blocked, and Syracuse is your national champion.
And so we lose by 3 in a national championship game. Those are the kind of things that eat at you for the rest of your life. But I walked up to Jimmy Boeheim to shake hands, and I said, Jimmy, I'm really happy for you.
Jim Boeheim is bringing his alma mater the national championship home.
The 78 title game set a record for most combined points, and it was Kentucky's Jack Goose Gibbons that led the way.
You didn't play for Kentucky unless you were an elite basketball player.
Gibbons.
But no one saw that coming. No one saw him lighting up anybody for 40-plus points.
And there's Gibbons again.
Goose had one of those unbelievable nights. He had never gone close to that amount of points.
But they haven't stopped this man. Go Skell!
Givens' career average was just over 16 points per game, but he scored 41 that night to earn Most Outstanding Player honors and bring home the Wildcats' first title since 1958.
And that's going to be it. The University of Kentucky are the basketball champions.
It was one of those nights when everything fell right in line, and he took advantage of the moment and put together one of those memories that last a lifetime.
19 years later, 4-seed Arizona went on an unprecedented run in the 1997 tournament to win their very first title, landing at number 37 on our list.
The 97 Arizona team did something that had never been done before.
How many of you out there had them in your brackets?
They beat 3 #1 seeds on their way to winning a championship.
The milestone victory for Arizona.
When you got to beat a 1 in a regional final, like Kansas, the favorite to win the whole championship.
For overtime, Arizona has pulled off the biggest upset of this tournament.
And then you go to the Final Four and you beat a 1 seed in the semifinal.
Bibby will take the 3, and he loves it. Arizona is playing in the national championship game.
What's up? One more, baby, one more.
And then you have, in the championship game, the team that had won the title the year before, and is yet another #1 seed, and you conquer them all.
Simon splits the defenders beautifully. Simon says championship.
What more can you do? What more could you ask of a team?
The thing that I'm so pleased about is this is one tough group of cats.
To me, that is one of the real indelible moments for this entire span of being around the NCAA tournament. That Arizona team was special.
Welcome back to the 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history. Number 36 was set up by a regular season game so big, they played it in a dome.
You know, the game of the century was one of the most indelible moments in college basketball history. It's played in the Astrodome. It was the first time I had ever seen anything of that significance, that big a crowd, the national television.
With UCLA star Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then Lou Alcindor, slowed by a scratched cornea, Cougar star Elvin Hayes scored 39 points to put an end to the Bruins' 47-game winning streak.
Well, fast forward, John Wooden wasn't going to let that happen again.
Indeed, 2 months later, the Bruins would meet the Cougars again, this time in the Final Four of the NCAA tournament.
Well, the greatest half I ever saw in college basketball was the first half UCLA-Houston semifinals of the 68 national championship. Every shot seemed to go in. Every pass was perfect. The defense totally shut down Elvin Hayes.
UCLA dominated the rematch by 32, and Alcindor helped hold Hayes to just 10 points, as the Bruins advanced to win their 4th title for John Wooden.
It would be a great orchestra playing at its peak, or a concert pianist playing at its very best. That 20 minutes was a perfect 10 for UCLA.
Number 35 is a team that became only the 4th 15 seed to upset a 2 seed, and did so in their tournament debut.
Iowa State that year had a tremendous team, but every once in a while, that 15 seed shows up and they can play.
The Hampton Pirates made a name for themselves with a game-winning basket by Tarvis Williams in the final seconds.
Inside, the big fella.
It's over! Oh my God! It's over!
Followed by a memorable celebration.
He gave us one of the great shots of all time. The coach is like a munchkin. The players are picking him up and hoisting him into the air, and it was just an incredible shot.
That's a moment in Hampton history that'll just never be forgotten, and it's a moment for us that'll never be forgotten.
It would be over 4,000 days until the next 15 seed defeated a 2. But in 2012, within 5 remarkable hours, it happened not once, but twice.
You want this game, you gotta take it. Nobody's gonna give you none, you gotta go out there and take it. Do you understand me? Yes, sir.
The madness began as Missouri and Norfolk State tipped off at 4:38 p.m.
I'm for 25 games, one more right now. You understand? Yes, sir.
I think the consensus was, well, Missouri's just going to pull away. They're clearly the better team.
Oh, he was slashed.
You look up at the clock and you're like, oh my gosh, anything can happen here.
And that's it.
A huge upset. One of the biggest upsets in the history of the NCAA.
Beware the 15s against the 2.
Less than a half hour later, at 7:15 p.m., 2-seed Duke was set to tip off against 15-seed Lehigh.
McCollum with a 2-point lead. How about that?
The Lehigh upset is bigger because it was Duke. Talk about basketball royalty like Duke and like Mike Krzyzewski. That's unbelievable.
Lehigh with its largest lead of the night.
That was a tough pill to swallow. Lehigh, come on.
One of the all-time shockers. Lehigh defeats Duke in the NCAA basketball tournament.
Duke has been on the other end of upsets too. A year after UNLV crushed them by 30 points in the title game, the Blue Devils looked to avenge that loss in the 1991 national semifinals.
That 91 UNLV team was just amazing. It was sort of a feeling that, wow, these guys could do well in the NBA.
Johnson, strong move inside.
They devoured, dominated, demolished the competition.
Duke unable to do anything against the Amoeba so far.
Coach K said to us, if we can get them in a close game, we think that we'll have the advantage because they've never been there. They won't know how to respond. And that's exactly what it came down to.
UNLV and Duke dueling it out.
I remember being in the game and looking up and like, wow, this is actually working. You know, like, man, we're right there with them.
Hits the trailer and Duke.
Duke's 2-point victory ended a 45-game winning streak for UNLV. And 2 days later, the Blue Devils would capture their first national championship.
I think as players, we knew once we beat Vegas, like, wow, we're going to win this. We're going to win a national championship. And thankfully and fortunately enough, we did.
Want to be part of the madness? Well, now you can. Just go to ncaa.com/March Madness and vote for the all-time March Madness players, teams, and moments. Welcome back to the 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history. Number 32 is actually a compilation of moments from March 14th, 1981. 3 frantic finishes in the second round that epitomized March Madness.
To see somebody make a last-second shot, to see an upset, that's, to me, the perfect NCAA tournament game.
You can have the players in place, you can have a great winning record, but there's nothing assured.
The coast-to-coast drama began in Dayton, Ohio, as St. Joseph stunned top-seeded DePaul with a last-second layup.
They win! St. Joseph, unbelievable!
An hour later in Austin, Texas, Arkansas's U.S. Reed drained the only half-court game winner in tournament history, bringing down defending national champion Louisville.
1 second long shot.
That is probably, of all the buzzer beaters, the most incredible shot made.
I think that's the moment that most people live for in the tournament.
Less than a minute later, in Los Angeles, Rolando Blackman's jumper sealed Kansas State's comeback over number 1 seed Oregon State.
Out of the Big 8 has knocked off the Oregon State Beavers.
It was a day where you found out, like, this isn't watching a game. This is one event. It's one of those things that changed college basketball and just kept it moving to where it is now.
Nine years later in the Meadowlands, UConn would experience both sides of the madness. In the 1990 Sweet 16, 5-seeded Clemson controlled the game against top-seeded UConn.
Clemson had a 1-point lead, and there's 1 second to go, and the ball is under the Clemson basket, so there's no margin for error.
Jim Calhoun drew up a play knowing that the guy had a heck of a right arm.
Scott Burrell, who also grew up playing baseball, threw the ball the length of the court.
1 second to go. The shot. Yes! The shot's going to count. The shot by Tate Jordan.
And it's nothing but net.
The pass becomes more important than the shot. That whole play to take place in that length of time was incredible.
2 days later, the Huskies faced Duke in the Elite Eight, where they saw another stunning end to the game, as well as their season.
Well, that was a crazy 2 days. The way they beat Clemson. And then in our game, Coach K just drew up a great play, and he called a little audible at the very end.
All right, here is Laettner with the shot, and it scores! And Duke wins!
Christian Laettner hits a double pump you know, to win the game against UConn. And so, I mean, you know, it's crazy. I mean, 2 great games in the Meadowlands. I'm sure the fans there, you know, certainly got their money's worth. Just another great sort of iconic moment of the tournament.
At number 30 is one of the most significant games in college basketball history. John Wooden's first title in 1964.
It was the smallest team of all my championship teams. As a matter of fact, I think it's the smallest team that has ever won the NCAA.
Wooden's talent was taking these high school all-stars, all-Americas, breaking them down, if you will, so they'll be good team players.
John Wooden emphasized conditioning, playing this crazy zone press that nobody had ever seen before.
Who knew that this was going to be a run like we've never seen, nor we will ever see again?
Led by the dynamic backcourt of Gail Goodrich and Walt Hazzard, no one could handle the Bruins. And with a victory against Duke in the title game, UCLA would complete a perfect season and capture the championship that Wooden had been striving for since he began coaching the Bruins in 1948.
The hidden story there is how long it took for Coach Wooden to win that first. You know, it is the start of the greatest coaching streak and stretch that this sport or any other sport has probably ever seen or ever will.
At number 29 on our list is a game-deciding shot that helped Villanova advance to their first Final Four since their championship run in 1985.
My favorite buzzer beater of all times is Scotty Reynolds taking the pass from Dante Cunningham, going the length of the floor against Pitt to put us into the Final Four in 09.
5.5 remaining. They're in trouble. Reynolds.
Oh, he got it! What was interesting about that play is previously we had the game won and we set up the same play, the possession before that, but Reggie Redding threw the ball the length of the court, almost out of bounds. Dante had to save it. Pitt goes down and ties the game.
He's fouled!
But Coach Wright had faith in Redding, and in the huddle before Pitt tied the game at the line, he boldly called for the same play.
You know, we talk a lot in our program about attitude, and it's about how you approach the next play. And when Reggie came off the court after throwing that ball away, everybody on our team was just saying to him, attitude, attitude. Like that's our way of saying, hey, forget about it, next play. And Reggie was such a smart, confident player, and we felt like, you know what, let's go back to him again. He can handle that. And Reggie came through.
We got plenty of time, I should say, at least 4 seconds to get it up the floor. They're in trouble. Reynolds.
Oh, he got it! And I was so proud of him of how he came out and made the perfect pass the next time rather than playing scared. And it actually worked there where Reggie found a way.
Welcome back to the countdown of the NCAA Tournament's 75 greatest moments. Number 28 is when 11-time NBA champion Bill Russell helped San Francisco become the first team to win an NCAA title with a perfect record.
Bill Russell was a guy who probably, for me, as a big man, kind of revolutionized the game. His ability on defense, to block shots and to intimidate, to be able to change shots, I think it was such a powerful weapon.
The Don's big man, Bill Russell, completed a dominant college career that night with 26 points and 27 rebounds in their second consecutive national title win.
You sit in that gym and you look up at the banners, and it's hard to imagine that's you know what Bill Russell did and did it twice.
Our next moment harkens back to a bygone era when the tournament featured a national third-place game. And in 1965, Princeton's Bill Bradley upstaged the ensuing championship game on his way to an NCAA record.
Bill Bradley was a legend in high school, Crystal City, Missouri. Everybody was shocked. He chose Princeton. His technique was something that was emulated in camps. I can't recall anybody who made the jumper with the regularity that he did.
It was a team that obviously you bought into it because you had the best player in the country playing for you, and he hung up numbers that were just unbelievable.
And against Wichita State, Bradley put up the biggest number of his career, a Final Four record, 58 points to secure a third-place finish for the Tigers.
It was one of the great performances of all time, and you know, even though it was a consolation game, that's never going to matter because it was an NCAA tournament, and Bill Bradley did it.
In 1995, Tyus Edney helped UCLA pull off a dramatic win by going coast to coast in a familiar way.
The striking thing about Tyus Edney's play was how similar it was to Danny Ainge's play for BYU against Notre Dame. It was a classic case of one of these great moments in sports history repeating itself in such a similar fashion.
14 years after Ainge's play, #1 seed UCLA would capture their 11th national championship, a title which hinged on that remarkable play against Missouri in the second round.
Here you're looking at the game and like, oh, it's over with. You know, there's no way that UCLA win this game.
4.8 seconds remains. UCLA, the top-ranked team in the country, #1 in the West, trailing by a point.
At that moment, you know, your focus has to go to finding a way to try and pull out a win. Coach Herrick, he grabbed Tyus as the rest of the team was going onto the floor and told him, shoot the ball, son, shoot the ball.
Edney going the distance. Yes!
For him to come down with the confidence to, you know, go through the teeth of the defense, go behind his back, and then to throw up a shot. Those are the moments that, you know, you live for. Definitely an amazing shot from the shortest guy on the court that day as well.
When the big night came for the championship game, Tyus Edney couldn't play because he hurt his wrist.
Rutherford on a wing. Whoa! Tyus went for that play. I don't know why he went for that block.
But in essence, UCLA won the national championship that night when Tyus Edney went coast to coast, just like Danny Ainge did it. I mean, only in America.
Thanks for watching more of our 75 greatest moments in NCAA tournament history. The countdown continues with the top 25 moments still to come as we celebrate 75 years of March Madness.